So hello there guys. So since nag-brown out tayo, so I will just make this as a video for you to watch offline. So going back na, this is our online classrooms and we had already discussed this. So as a reminder for you, so I will just repeat our online classroom. So we have only 5 golden rules. So number 1, be on time. So just like what I have said, you have to sign in, or you have to join in our class 15 minutes before our time. So second, you have to be attentive. Next, be respectful, be professional, and do not abuse our chat box. So this is just a reminder for you with our online classrooms. Okay, so now let's proceed. So in this video, we are going to talk about earthquakes and faults, and we are focusing here on the activity that included in the module 1. So the objectives, according or based on the our most essential learning competencies. So at the end of our lesson, you are expected to explain how movements along faults generate earthquakes using illustrations or models, and for you to identify the causes of earthquakes. So that is why I assigned you to bring your plastic ruler and 2 bond papers in any size. Okay, kung ano lang yung available. Okay, so next. So what can you see in the picture? So where do you think this happened? Okay, so you got it right. Now, if you could still remember, this is an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.2, which hits Bohol last October 15, 2013. And yes, as you can see in the picture, there are many peoples or many people are injured, and worst, lives are lost. So the roads, the bridges, and the buildings, are also destroyed. And according to the official report of NDRRMC, or the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, there are about 976 people were injured, and there are 200 deaths. And still there are 8 people missing. So that's so sad. Yes, and it is true that earthquake is one of the most dangerous natural disasters everyone could experience. So the damages it created depend on its strength. Yes, and the aftershocks made everyone feared of what will happen next. So since this is a natural phenomenon that no one can predict and no high technology can monitor its occurrence in advance, so no one is prepared. So that is why every quarter our school conducts an earthquake drill for you to be aware of what are you going to do before, during, and after the earthquake. So next. So these are some questions you will have to answer to find out what really an earthquake is as we go on with our lesson. So why do we experience earthquakes? How are they generated? And what factors causes this trembling of the Earth's surface? So those are some questions that you are going to answer to find out what really an earthquake is. Okay, so let's proceed. So before we go to our discussion, so we will have our activity first. So you are going to answer some questions in our mentimeter.com. So the code was already sent in our GC, so kindly look at our GC, please. So there you are going to answer 5 questions all about the layers of the earth. So because by familiarizing the Earth's layers, you will have an idea that all of them have something to do in earthquake formation. Uh, so given the fact that the Earth, that the extreme heat that comes from the ground that wants to escape from the Earth's surface makes the plates to move and causes trembling. So just go and answer the questions there in the Mentimeter. So I hope that you can, yes, access the code. And after that, so after you answer those questions, so I have here, so you are going to answer this one, or you are going to perform this one. So the question is, how do earthquakes generate? Okay, so in order for you to answer this, you can easily visualize it by performing this activity. So that is why I told you to bring a plastic ruler. Okay, so here are our procedures. So first, you are going to hold a plastic ruler with one hand and lay it sideward on the table. So using your other hand, bend the free end of the ruler and then release. And then observe what happened. And you are going to answer these questions. 3 questions. So, first question. When you bend the ruler, what form of energy does the ruler have? So if you could still remember our discussion of the 2 types of energy, so what are those? If you could still remember it, it is, or those are the potential energy and the kinetic energy. So for the first question, when you bend the ruler, what form of energy does the ruler have? Okay, correct. So the ruler, okay, after it bent, the potential energy is formed. Okay, again, potential energy is formed after the ruler bent. Second, what happens to the ruler when you release its bent end? What do you think? What happens to the ruler, no, when you released its bent? Of course, no, the ruler will moved, or the ruler moved and fell into the ground after releasing it from being bent. Third is, what happened to the stored energy of the plastic ruler when you release the bent side? So what happens to the stored energy of the ruler when you release the bent side? Okay, very good. So it transformed into kinetic energy after releasing the bent side. So kinetic energy is energy in motion. Potential energy is energy at rest. So when you bend the ruler, no, the question there is, what form of energy does the ruler have? Does the ruler have? So it has potential energy after the ruler was bent, and it transformed into kinetic energy after releasing the bent side. Okay, so before the earthquake happens, energy is stored underneath due to accumulation of heat. So as you can see in our screen, so there is a stored energy underneath due to the accumulation of heat. So convection current causes the tectonic plates to move in tensional or compressional ways. And what is tensional and compressional ways? So let's define it. So tensional movements tend to pull the lithosphere above it in opposite direction. Again, that is tensional movements when it pulls the tensional movements when it tends to pull the lithosphere above it in opposite direction. So as you can see in our animated diagram. So there, the footwall and the hanging wall. So we will discuss that as we go along with our discussion. Second is the compressional movements. So in compressional movements, it tends to pull the materials towards each other. From the word compress, pull the materials towards each other. Okay. So this time, let's do the activity that will stimulate you more on how earthquakes are generated. So I have here a prepared video for you to watch now the procedures on how you're going to do the activity. Okay, so I will give you now the time to also do the activity. And after that, you are going to answer the following questions. So, first question is, what happened to the folded papers when they are pushed toward each other? And explain. Second, what is represented by the folded pieces of paper? And third, what is represented by the narrow departition in the boundary between the two pieces of paper? Okay, so it's time for you to do the activity. Kindly observe carefully what happened to the folded papers. So I think you are now ready to answer this question. Number 1, what happened to the folded papers when they are pushed toward each other? Okay, very good. So, of course, the folded papers were squeezed in and the folds were created after pushing them towards each other. Number 2, what is represented by the folded pieces of paper? Okay, you got it right. The folded papers were represented by moving tectonic plates. And number 3, what is represented by the narrow deep partition in the boundary between the two pieces of paper? Okay, very good. Now, the deep partition between the two pieces of paper were represented by plate boundary. Okay, let's proceed. So, again, you're going to open your mentimeter.com. So, you are also, again, you have to answer our activity number 3, what causes earthquake? So, there you can answer those questions. So, again, I will send the code in our GC. Okay, so next. So you can look at this video. Now I have already sent it to our Google Classroom. So this is now the discussion of our topic. So let's proceed again to Mentimeter. So you are going to answer there. You are going to answer there now some of the questions now for you to or for me to evaluate if you had you have something that learned in this lesson. So that's all. Thank you for listening.